All right. This is Chris Rubio of Rubio Long Snapping in northern Idaho, speaking to the famous Dr. Conor Hogan in Galway, Ireland. Did I get it?
That's perfect.
Perfect. Now, I need to work on the accent, though. All right. We're about 4,200 miles away. We are coming in with basically our third conversation, interview, topic. I don't know what we're even going to call these. It's just things that we're going to go over different topics. It has to do with the mind because he's the master of that. And I'm going to give you the Rubio version, or just we'll say layman's terms. And he's going to give you the answers of why you're actually thinking about that. All right. So for this conversation, we're going to talk about coaches that don't say anything. We've spoken about coaches that are kind of yellers, but with long snappers, you never, ever, ever get your name mentioned unless you do something incorrect. And then boom, cameras are on you. And for a long snapper, it's hard because you never get credit. The guy makes his game-winning kick. Yay, rah, rah, rah. They put him on their shoulders. Yay, you're the greatest. Like I always say, you cannot have a game-winning kick without a game-winning snap. The person should be held first, should be the long snapper, and then they hold the kicker, because the long snapper starts the whole play. But let's be honest. He should get more credit because without him, it doesn't happen. All right. So I wanted to start with what happened to me. Was a red shirt sophomore year at UCLA. I'm put on scholarship. Everything's going very, very well. I come from a single mom household. I'm used to being the baby bear, my mama bear, and mom's always, you're doing great, Christopher, rah, 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 and kind of, we'll say babying me too much. My wife would definitely say that. And I remember played about 3 or 4 games, and the coach didn't say one thing to me. We didn't really have a special teams coach at UCLA at that time. It was more, the linebacker coached the PATs. Everyone had their own little jobs. So we're doing practice PATs, that's the short snaps. And I remember walking over to Coach Terry Donahue. Terry Donahue was the head coach at the time. He was an absolute legend. He's a Hall of Fame coach. I mean, he's been at UCLA forever. He's retired since then. But I mean, anyone that knows UCLA football knows Terry Donahue. Is a no-brainer. And I remember snapped a couple great balls, had a couple good games. And I walked up to him, Coach. He had these Ray-Bans and he was chewing his little dentine gum. I said, Coach Donahue. And he kind of looked at me like, who are you even talking to me? And he goes, yes, Rubio. I said, Coach, I've done phenomenal. 4 games in a row. Just had a great practice. I said, you've never once complimented me, not one time. And I remember him specifically turning to me, taking off his sunglasses and going, Rubio, as a long snapper, if your head coach never speaks to you, you're doing perfect. And I said, peace out. I walked away. I didn't ever speak to him again until he retired. That is a true story. So, Doc, what do you say about that? What do you say to the long snappers that they kind of need a little bit of praise and they're never going to get it? Is this the wrong position, or why does the coach not do that? Do they not know what's happening? What do you think?
Well, I think first off, the last conversation we had, perhaps it could have been a bit difficult on coaches to hear that. And, look, the thing about coaching, the thing about obviously growing up and, becoming a footballer and being good at something, and the thing about life in general is we're all the time learning. The minute we stop learning, we're not going to do well. And if you guys are hugely successful and the players all win and all their teams win, that's fantastic. But next year's a new competition. So we need to continually be open to the criticism, be open to the learning and that. But in that instance that you were saying there is that basically you might have actually been kind of a counselor type person that you opened the conversation out. You said, hey, why don't you talk to me? What's not happening here? And that, like, it's, my answer to this really is that rather than coaches kind of like changing or trying to learn about how they can coach better, it's more about realizing that, young people are prospering into different personality states. And believe it or not, there's like 16 different personality states out there. And some even say there's even more because there's so many different personality tests and so on. And often we make this kind of mistake as adults, and all of us do it, where we see a young person that, is a great player and they might play very much like their father. They might be built the exact same build athletically. They might have a perfect build. They might look like the father in the face. You might, meet the father or indeed the mother. They might be very similar. They might speak the same. They might have the same ways and characteristics and so on. And they might be very close, they might be very good, positive people and so on, but they're not their father and they're not their mother because they're still developing their own personality. So their personality is developed through, yes, genetics for sure, because obviously there's that likeness there with the father and the mother and so on. But it's also to do with the environment that's around us. And like we mentioned the last time on, if you have a yelling coach, but if you have a quiet coach, that's going to then do things to not just their personality, but further back to their brain. And it's actually going to make the brain develop in a certain calm pattern. So if we go back, if we look at, say, pregnancy, right? We've seen in the last 10, 20 years, a lot on movies and that where they have home births, right? And a lot of people choose home births now, where they might have animal sounds or something calming sounds when a child is literally giving, or a mother's giving birth to a child. It's the same way that you're developing. If you're speaking with a person softly, they're going to receive it softly. Their brain is going to develop in that calm manner. It's going to be good for the brain and away from any type of anxiety or kind of distrust of a coach. So, but on the side of the coach, they have to realize how or what different personality types there are out there. And as I said, going back to that, there could be like 16 different types. It could be the healer, the mastermind. As I said, I mentioned the counselor, the person like you that in that state or at that time was looking to open up a conversation and say, hey, in a nice, calm manner, why? Like, why is this happening? The architect, the people that are innovating or innovative, the champion, you'll have plenty of those, the visionary, the teacher, that's a bit, and by the way, you don't actually have to have one personality. You can have 2, 3, 4, 5 different parts. As I said, there might be a parent that's one personality, another parent that's another. And then, if you spend equal time and if the genetics are equal, you might have a crisscross going on in the personality. Plus, the young person's so young, so they're still being influenced by the environment around them. So there's all these different kind of things that make up the cocktail of an individual. But in general, yes, calmer is better. And there's absolutely, I think, going back to what you're saying there as well about asking, I think it's good to ask. I think, look, it's a sign of leadership if a young person that's playing a sport asks. If they have only a limited amount of ability, at least you have a leader that's in there that can be brought out. So I think that's
so say you have this 15, 16-year-old high school kid, and he's kind of just coming into his own. He's trying to gain his confidence, trying to become that leader, and his kicker is getting all the credit. I'll just use them example because this is very common in my field. Yeah. Does the long snapper, in my opinion, now you tell me if I'm wrong here, you're the doctor here, he just has to suck it up and know, okay, this is my position. I'm not going to get any credit. It's almost like an offensive lineman. This is what you get. It's one of those where there's winners and losers in life. You just lose because you're not in a glorified position. Is it one of those things? Is there another way to handle it?
I think the best way of doing that, and I agree with you, you have to be honorable to the game, right? Because there's no point producing a player or producing a team or like you do, specific skilled people in this position in a way that's going to be defeatist to, what's going to happen in high pressure competition. So the reality is you're measured, when the crowds are there, and if you can do it when it's needed most. So essentially we need to kind of have, from your point of view, from the coach's point of view, from a team organization's point of view, the best way to communicate the gratitude you have towards this, not just the person in the position of being a long snapper, but also the individual, and to feed into what I just said there, the different personality traits, and you will have different personality traits for the long snappers. So the reality is you need to embed it in the culture, I think, so that, for example,
who needs to embed it?
Well, you guys need to embed it in the culture. Yeah. So for example, right, if you are going on a camp, right, and you have a camp of a weekend, okay, that obviously when you're out there, I don't know, Friday evening, Saturday morning, Saturday afternoon, Sunday, twice or 3 times before you go home, you're going to do a lot of practice on the field, on the pitch itself. So you're going to actually have less time perhaps with the long snappers, or more attention in the team type thing, like you say, to the quarterback or to other positions. They are, let's face it, these are the guys that have the posters on people's bedroom walls, right? Unfortunately, correct. But before you go out of the dressing room or before you go out onto the field, yeah, you got to say, hey, look, guys, we're all a group, and we are not able to function here to win 9 times out of 10 without having, say, for example, our long snapper. I'm not just saying just say the long snapper, but no, give credit to all the different parts of the position, because it is different cogs in the wheel. So today you might really need the long snapper in this particular game, but 9 times out of 10 you might need them. It's the quarterback that throws that ball or whatever. Yeah. So they have to know that they're culturally, yes, like you say, that is their position. It's needed in a certain amount of times, but it's not like another position, which is more a flair position. I'd liken it to, and you likened it there to the other thing in football, but I liken it to actually soccer here, where you've got a goalkeeper, right? Mm-hmm. And it's often said in soccer where a great goalkeeper is not measured by the ball, the shots that are taken on him, but it's the one that, like, on the 90, there's 90 minutes in a game, so like on the 95th minute, 5 minutes into injury time, when that shot comes, that desperate shot, and he can just he can react to it and make that save, and he hasn't had one shot on target on him in the whole game. That's the guy that saves you. If you've got one goal, it's 1-0, it's low scoring, and then he saves them. He touched the ball once, but he saves them. And it's kind of like what the silent assassin.
100%, same thing.
So that guy, if we equate it, what is the long snapper doing? Just because he's not physically doing anything in the game a lot of the time, he has to have 100% concentration all of the time. His focus, right?
Like I said, like he's a sniper.
Exactly. So he has to be, he's absolutely, like, he's a cog on the wheel. But every cog on the wheel, including the person who, cleans your jerseys or cleans your uniforms and washes them or makes the sandwiches, everybody is important. If a happy dressing room wins competitions. It's not just those that go out in the field. And of those that go out in the field, of course, the long snapper is the guy, unfortunately, that is not going to get all of that praise. Now, that said, and that's a good thing for a coach to hear, I suppose. Mm-hmm. That said, though, it's about coaching and coaches learning and understanding that everybody is different. Every young person is different. And you know what?
Oh, yeah.
He has a different personality trait. He can develop differently. He might be, this way. He might be quite guy at 15, at 17. He's totally different. Why? Because he's had a girlfriend all the way through, and something different has happened, breakup or whatever, or something happened in school, or he's trying out a new, we've all done it. We've all grown up. So there's a whole youth culture going on there as well. And, we're talking about COVID-19, and, the guy that's been quiet and sucked it up perhaps could be the guy that gets frustrated now with things going on and not even being communicated to on a practice field. And he's still a guy that's perhaps at home doing all his school or college work, and he has less human communication, the same way as we all have less human communication. So it's really important to fill in those gaps. So if you're not doing it on the field, certainly acknowledge their position. But if you're not acknowledging their personality on the field, it certainly has to be acknowledged outside of the field. In other words, the coach could ring him up, not every week, but now and then, and say, hey,
you stop right there, because off the field is going to drive us right into our next topic.
Yeah.
All right. Doc, you were phenomenal yet again, all the way from Galway, Ireland. I appreciate it. We just wrapped up episode, conversation, interview, I don't know what you want to call it, number 3, basically talking about coaches that don't really speak a lot. All right. So signing off, we will be back soon. Stop.